This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where it's all about getting the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Brought to you by Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com. Now, here's your host, Kevin Prewett.
This is Kevin Prewett with the Marketing Umbrella Podcast. We've got a special guest today. He founded originality.ai after selling a content marketing agency he had previously founded. OriginalityAI launched in November 2022 and was created to detect GPT-3 generated content just before ChatGPT launched. Having been one of the earliest adopters of generative AI content for SEO purposes at scale through his agency, he understood the wave that was coming, with which ChatGPT and GPT-4 have fully unleashed. Additionally, he believed that there was a need for a modern plagiarism checking solution that was really good, one that provided scan history, detection scores, shareable results, team access, etc. All the things required for a modern plagiarism checking solution. Please join me in welcoming John Gillham to the Marketing Umbrella Podcast. John, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
So, bios are often so work related. So, man, let's round it out a little bit. Give our guests a little bit of better understanding of my my new friend from up north.
Yeah. So based in Canada, small town. So worked to try and sort of get back to my hometown where family does a lot of skiing and biking. Pretty tiny mountain relative to what exists in other parts of the world, but it's beautiful spot, a great spot to be in. It's Collingwood, and then let's spend a lot of time ski coaching, soccer coaching. That's sort of what keeps me busy.
Now, you mentioned that you have somebody that's near and dear to you that might have played for like a national team somewhere.
Yeah, so my wife played national team for a period of time on soccer. Both from the same town, but pursued different sports, which was long way from that athleticism now. Both me and less of her, but it's a good time, and then fun to see the kids sort of embracing some of the same sports.
And what's her name in case people want to Google this too? So
yeah, it was Stacy Van Boxmeer.
All right. Well, man, your kids are going to be like super athletes or something, so it's going to be interesting to see. But just thanks again for just joining us on the podcast here, and tell us a little bit of the origin story of originality. I mean, so often, that we interview founders, we talk to people that have created something. It's like, hey, I was just scratching my own itch, and then this just kind of turned into a thing here. So walk us through that kind of journey.
Yeah, I think that's very much the case in my situation as well. So we had been running a content marketing business, ended up selling that. Through that process, have been using was kind of still is sometimes the standard around plagiarism checking, Copyscape, which hasn't improved in 20 years, and it was just an incredibly frustrating tool to use, and thought there had to be a better solution that wasn't just built for academia. It was built for content marketing agencies, web publishers, and so that's what we were building initially. And then we had launched a arm of the content business that was a sort of a transparent use of AI to publish content. So like transparently, where you're going to use AI. This is at the time like Jasper and Copy AI, GPT-3 wrapper tools. We're going to be using AI. You're going to save a bunch of costs. We're going to put a human in the loop to make sure it doesn't say wild hallucinations, and we're going to be able to sell that content for a lot cheaper. There's some risks around, Google and how it's going to treat AI, but here's a incredibly low cost, super high efficiency path to creating a bunch of content. And we saw that, and then started to have the questions around like, well, are writers on our human writing service using AI or not? And what is our policy around that? And put a policy in place. And then it's like, well, what are our controls around that? And there really weren't any. There really weren't any controls around trying to ensure that writers weren't using AI, and our ability to answer clients' questions around are your writers using AI?
Yeah,
it's like, no, we have a policy, but a policy without controls is a pretty mediocre step.
Exactly. I, is this a from a brand protection standpoint, or is it from governance standpoint? I mean, I guess there's so many different facets to, why this is important. So kind of walk down that list of, what are we trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, like why do we care if the writer
Hmm.
used AI or not and it was good? Who cares? I think that's it's a great question. I think a lot of people are sort of evolving. I think there's a sort of simple one around fairness, around if you're paying
Hmm.
a writer $100 or $1,000 for that piece of content and they copy and paste it out of ChatGPT, it's like, well, that should be your efficiency and capital real savings, not necessarily the writer.
Right.
Um, and so there's that fairness piece. And then I think it doesn't take too many sort of steps to see, and I think we've seen this now playing out where um, if Google's search results are filled with nothing but AI content, then why would people go to Google? Why wouldn't they just go to the AI? Their
Hmm.
AI search results being massively overrun by AI spam is an existential threat to Google, and they have to act on that. And we have seen
Mm.
them acting on it. We've seen a manual action update on March 5th that clearly attacked AI spam. We see them aggressively discuss that they hate AI spam, but
Hmm.
then also need to be sort of this AI forward company.
Yeah.
And so it may put them in an
That's a
interesting
tough
spot.
spot. That's right.
Yeah, they don't want to be Kodak and say like no AI bad,
Exactly.
um, but they can't have but it's an existential
Hmm.
threat if their search results are nothing but AI. And so I think it is the vast majority of publishers have share similar views that publishing AI content is risky.
Hmm.
There's risks around reputation, or if hallucinations get injected in there. There's risks that Google will continue to take significant action against AI generated spam,
Hmm.
and good quality AI generated content will get wrapped into that. I think it's a reasonable statement that not all AI content is spam, but in 2024, anyone that's spamming the internet is using AI to do so.
It is interesting when you look at content, you look at videos, and just the script. I mean, sometimes, if especially if it's in your native tongue, you grew up speaking that particular language, you kind of understand the nuances, you understand the just the intricacies of the language. You can tell that this just doesn't sound natural, like,
Yeah.
but the more sophisticated this gets, I mean, there was a great example of an AI generated video of a college football coach that came out and supposedly was doing a press conference, and he just said the most ridiculous stuff. And I mean, I watched the video very closely, and it's like, I know that's AI generated, but it looks so authentic. His voice, everything, mannerisms. I mean, it's just crazy, clone. And just they're just realizing the danger of of
Yeah.
this happening. But use the word hallucination. So is actually, I don't want to lead the witness here. So tell me, define hallucination for me, and then I may have some follow-up questions around that.
Yeah. So it's a name that's sort of, or a word that's sort of come to represent an AI making things up. And so AIs are incredibly good at confidently bullshitting. And so they're phenomenal at saying something that is wildly wrong, but doing so in a really intelligent, convincing way.
Mm.
Whereas editors used to need to be concerned about like it, if it was poorly written, then you had to be extra careful of the facts, and that was sort of like the tell. And now in a world where if it's AI generated, it could be so well written and convincing and supported, but it's totally made up. And so hallucination is just a word that's sort of come to mean when AI just makes things up.
When it doesn't have the facts, it kind of fills in the gaps.
Yeah, and even when it does have the facts, it gets creative. The sort of balance between control and creativity, even if it has the right facts, it'll still like just make things up.
Is there a potential for intentionality behind this? Like, I'm thinking the perfect example is like election season, Is
Yeah.
there a potential that we're feeding, you know, targeted information into these large language models that are creating output that is biased, or does that make sense?
Yeah. So I there's a really we supported doing a really interesting study that looked at which websites were blocking um, AI, specifically OpenAI, from crawling their site.
Mm-hmm.
And what we saw was that there was this very clear divide between center and left wing media
Mm-hmm.
and right wing media in terms of which sites were blocking
Mm-hmm.
AI from crawling it. The biases that are reflected in LLMs, the biases that are reflected by OpenAI models and any other AI, is a reflection. It's not. Sometimes the guardrails are, but
Mm-hmm.
the majority of that bias that we see is a reflection on the data that it has consumed. And so if
Yeah.
there is an intention, and I, that there was we supported some sort of tier one media outlets that sort of did this reporting, and they didn't get sort of a detailed answer on was this an intentional decision, but certainly a byproduct of the decision of a the majority of a certain political view saying AI don't train on me, and then the majority of us different political views saying yeah, come scrape my data and train on me, is that it will shift the bias of the LLMs in the direction of their training data.
Right.
No evidence that has been reflected, but it sort of doesn't take too many leaps of logic to see that will you could very easily see the intentionality of attempting to inject data into LLM's training data. Now, I think the sort of like reason to not be concerned about that is just the amount of data that was out there
Mm-hmm.
in the
Yeah.
world being consumed. Is you
Yeah.
would need it would be incredibly hard to move the world to have actors
Move the
in a
needle. Yeah.
coordinated way move
Mm-hmm.
the needle
Yeah.
of the amount of data being trained.
See, you're so good. You're answering my questions before I ask them now, because that literally was where I was headed with this next one. Is like, is there a like a secondary step in there where I can kind of move the needle by just being, overwhelming you, like if you've got two competing opinions, like you ask a question, which direction is north? I say it's that way, you know somebody else says this is behind me, and I can just have more, pages, more information that says it's this way. Do I
Yeah.
tilt the needle toward my own, my own answer?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm definitely not an expert on that. I think anytime there's an algorithm that will have economic benefits, there's people that are going to be out there to try and sort of
That's
optimize it for
probably
their
true.
benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, whether it be like search engine optimization, now sort of AI optimizations, how do you make sure if somebody asks what's the best AI detector, if someone asks ChatGPT what's the best AI detector, hopefully originality gets identified because one, I think
Hmm.
I'm convinced we are. The data supports that we are, but what data are they picking up that communicates that? And so I think it'd be hard to move. I think we will see a lot of information that will come out about people claiming that they have been capable of moving those answers.
Yeah.
Whether or not they were, I don't know, but it'd be they're only capable of answering off of the data that they consumed. And so if you can feed it answers, and the richness of the training data is small enough that your answers are a meaningful percentage of that data,
Hmm.
then I could understand why that would move the needle in specific cases. I think we're talking cases where it's like the best plumber in small town.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
It's
volume
like
of sort of
SEO. It's
yes.
there's like a correlation there.
Yep.
I told you I had looked at a couple of other interviews that you had done, podcast interviews, and one note that I wrote that I want to ask the question, are you perceived as good guys or bad guys? By because I can almost see a use case either way where I'm like, either whether it's an internal use or an external use. If I am, wanting to make sure that the copy that my agency is producing is genuine, it's not just AI generated, and it's an internal check and balance system. great. You know, in my way, in idea, you're the good guy. If I'm receiving the product and I'm running it through this process and I'm going back to you and saying, hey, you're sending me AI generated content here when you said it was original, you know, I can prove this by using originality. Now you're got a black hat on, you know, type thing. You're the bad guy. So
Yeah.
how are you viewed?
Yeah, I think so I think good guy, but and I'll talk through that. Students are hilarious. So the number of emails that we get, and so we don't focus in academia, but there's tons of use of our tool within academia, and the number of emails we get were like calling us a F word narc. Pretty hilarious. So that aside, I think they view us as the bad guy, but we're not building for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Narc.
Who we're building for is to try and allow transparency to exist between the client that's buying content and agency and the writer.
Mm-hmm.
We do create false positives. Every classifier does. Our rate is around 2%. 2% of the time we will call a human generated piece of work AI. That causes pain in that world for the writer. So that in that individual case, we're the bad guy. We've messed up. We've caused pain. On scale, like on mass, I think we are clearly the good guy, because I think what stands between a lot of writers and work that isn't being done by anybody that has access to ChatGPT, which is basically the whole world, is detection that shows that there was transparency between the work that was done, honest work being done, honest amount being paid for it, and a writer getting and the end client getting what they were after, which was human generated content. I think if there wasn't detection, then there would be a significant lack of trust in that entire process, and I think a lot of writers would be out of work.
Is there a thought, you know, internally about, like, you're almost like a certification agency, you know, type thing? I'm like, if I'm a writer and I'm competing with somebody, you know, for a job, I'm thinking, hey, I'm originality certified here. I run all my content through, you know, this AI detection to prove that this was original content versus the person that's, you know, says they can do it for 25% less, you know, type thing. Is there any idea or any thought process around that?
Yeah, so we'd love if detection was perfect. We've talked about that. If detection was perfect, we would have rolled that out. Because detection classifiers it's an AI that's similar. Like we're used to them predicting the weather. Usually right, worth listening to, but not always not going to be spot on.
Right.
And that's sort of a similar system that is taking a bunch of data in and then predicting an outcome. And so if it was perfect, I think we would have done that. We do see a lot of writers saying that, like, we'll pass originality AI and plagiarism. A lot of writers are saying, like, yes, we know clients want this, and we're communicating that we're happy to be using that, and what you're going to get from us is going to pass what is becoming, we're working towards, and I think becoming the standard in the space around the sort of verification, the final QA/QC check on a piece of content, that it not AI generated, not plagiarism, fact checking, readability score, grammar checking, sort of that sort of final QA/QC check. A lot of writers saying, yeah, you're going to get a document from me in their profile that will meet those requirements.
Do you anticipate that governments will step in and at any level require something similar to this? You think there's going to be that kind of level of involvement or intervention?
I think the first domino to fall on that. So I think the answer is yet likely. I think, and I think it's going to come in the form of what causes more societal harm. A piece of text being AI generated, pretty small societal harm.
Yeah.
Potential for a fake video or fake image, not being known to be fake. Societal harm is high, and on mass, so very accurate over a large data set. But to be able to take a single, like, paragraph and say, was this AI generated or not? We can't say that with certainty. And I think detectors that focus on images or videos are in the same boat, where they against a big corpus of data, accurate. Against a
Mm-hmm.
single specific image, hard. And so I think there's going to be, and I think the societal harm there is also
Yeah.
a lot higher. And so I think regulators, politicians are going to focus in on images, audio, video, where a discrete piece of content can produce more societal harm. I think it also gets them kicked out of office sooner too if a poor video about them comes out.
Oh yeah.
So I think their own pain is attached to that form of media as opposed to the text.
If I'm leading a marketing agency, I mean, and this is kind of your history, leading up to this.
Yep.
So what is I mean, other than checking my, content producers and verifying that they're actually, doing original content, what's the broader picture, of originality and its integration with the marketing agency space?
Yeah, so we're aiming to be anybody that acts as a copy editor, a complete toolkit for them. And so, whereas what a copy editor needs to do now, or anybody acting as a copy editor, so anybody that gets text from writers needs to evaluate the quality of that text and then pass it off. They might use Grammarly for grammar and spelling. They might use a readability tool. They'll use a plagiarism checker, and now they need to use an AI detection tool. And so, being able to sort of be a one-stop shop for that final QA/QC step and make sure that the quality of the content meets the standards that they're selling to their client and expecting from their
Hmm.
writers. And so that's where we said is that anybody acting as a copy editor being a complete toolkit for them.
And that's aggregating these different services like under one like SaaS product, or is it utilizing those tools, or I guess let's
Yeah,
lift the bonnet here.
yeah. So it's you receive a piece of text from a writer, you paste it, upload it, send it via an API call, but push that text into Originality,
Hmm.
and then Originality has a bunch of microservices: AI detection, plagiarism checking, fact checking, readability, grammar and spelling, some more in the pipeline. That's sort of each step that a copy editor needs to do, and then returns that in a single snapshot, so that you can sort of click, copy and paste it in, click one button, and then get a snapshot overview on if that piece of content meets the expectations that you had and expectations that your clients have.
And is it macro or micro when it's looking at content? Is it saying that hey, this has a 72% likelihood that it was AI generated, and not only that, but on a micro, I can tell you where in the document we believe that there were infractions or whatever, or is that a little more
Yeah,
2028,
no, great question. Probably the most misunderstood concept around detectors. So detectors are providing a prediction on whether or not most detectors, and the way the Originality works is, do we believe AI was involved in the creation of this content or not? And then it provides a probability of confidence. And so if it says 70% original, that's saying we think it's original and we're 70% confident in that prediction. So that's the way it works. We
Hmm.
try and provide more granularity. The shorter the text that you feed into one of these classifiers, the detectors, the less accurate it becomes. And
Mm,
so
yeah.
we want to provide the most accurate that we can overall score and overall prediction, but then provide as much resolution as possible without slipping on accuracy. So the way we do that is with highlighting. So we'll highlight sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, to try and show what part of the content we believe is likely AI generated that is leading to the overall far more accurate prediction of AI or not.
Is there any allowance for previously created content by an author or by a creator? Like if I have a large body of work that I've been writing copy for 20 years, if there's a large body of work there, is that taken into consideration when you're measuring the newest piece of content that would show, there's a pattern of how this person writes, how they put sentences together, the syntax, whatever, and
Yep.
versus this looks so different. It's almost like text criticism, like if I'm thinking
Yep.
like biblical text or something like that, you're going, you know what? This is written in such a different style. I'm saying there's two authors, in this particular segment, or some, kind of where I'm headed
Yeah.
with the question.
Yeah, for sure. So our tool no. Um, the best you the users that use our tool the best do. So there's a relationship with writers, there's an editor or entrepreneur, business owner that works with writers. They have a history with that writer. And the best use case is not to apply sort of a binary classification. AI, you're kicked out. But is to take like, okay, hey, you last 50 articles you've submitted have been shown up as original. This one showed up as AI. Let's have a look at this historical pattern. And is there maybe this was that one that sort of 2% false positive, and then they sort of consider that historical pattern. So in the best editors do that. Our tool doesn't do that, but that's an interesting point.
I do think that over time, the trends that originality might show me, like if the articles that I've been producing have a real low probability of AI, and then all of a sudden the articles I'm sending you can just see a steady increase over time. You're thinking, wait a minute, there's smoke, there's fire here. There's probably a reason that trend line is going up like a hockey stick.
So we had a writer that worked for us that was identified in that way. First 20 articles, no issues. Started producing some more articles. They started to sort of trigger AI. Had conversation. The editor had a conversation with them. No, absolutely not using AI. No chance. And then we have a free Chrome extension that lets you visualize the writing. So it takes all the macro, the metadata of a Google document, and then recreates the visualization of that creation. Looked at that, and it became pretty clear that it was AI. Confronted them again, and they admitted that they switched over to using AI and our tool for writing for us, and then our tool caught it.
We have video evidence of you sitting on your couch drinking coffee when this document was supposedly written. So it's Big Brother is watching you. Anything that we haven't touched on with I'm thinking especially in the marketing space, what are some other real benefits of the tool that we haven't touched on right now or up to this point?
I think potentially a broader sort of concept around, for agencies, when AI first came out, it was like amazing. I get to drive my writing costs way down. And I think a lot of clients have been slow to sort of start asking the question on what is the risk associated with, is this content AI generated or not? And so I think there's valid. I have a local business that I'm part owner of. Happy to see AI content being used in the marketing material for that. I think it's a great use case. But I think that transparency is something that we try and provide the tooling to be able to let marketing agencies share, and so that there's transparency between the writer, the agency, and the client. And I think clients are going to be asking more and more about where AI is involved and not involved in their material.
I mean, I love the thing that you framed is that, it's not binary. It's not like AI bad,
Right.
There are absolute, use cases where it's very effective. It's cost effective. It's time, we save time. And actually some of the things may even increase consistency in the way things are written, if you had multiple writers writing with different voices and things like that. So but yeah, there's certainly a potential dark side, as well. I love that you guys are trying to somehow shield us mere mortals from the potential of the dark side of this. But anything that I have not touched on, you just like to wrap us up with, just before we shift to our rapid fire questions.
No, I think covered everything, I think, but no, looking forward to the next section.
So these are rapid fire. You're going to think these are disparate questions where are these coming from? Why is this guy asking these? But there's a method to our madness. But it's not AI generated. These are original. So just first thing that comes to mind, just rapid answers. So did you get along with your parents growing up?
Yes.
Do you have siblings?
Yes.
Boy,
brother.
Okay. Do you have a pet?
No. Big spider that we call a pet, but no.
That won't leave. Yeah. Children?
Yes.
Ages?
6 9 11.
All right.
7 9 11.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, and their birthdays. When do you wake up on a work day generally?
6 a.m.
And what time do you go to bed generally?
11 p.m.
Ideal vacation spot. Money not an object.
Yeah, skiing. Big Mountain, Whistler, Europe, Alps.
Wherever there's fresh powder.
Yeah.
How does faith affect the way you do business in any way?
That doesn't impact my business personally.
If you were king for a day in the marketing space, what's one thing you would change? I'd blow originality up like a unicorn.
any claims of results need to be backed with data.
Kind of what you're trying to do now.
Certainly inspired by that view. Yes.
Oh man, John, thank you so much just for chatting with us today. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation and probably could have continued asking you questions for a couple hours because everything you said generated more the need to learn more. But so where can people find more about originality?
Yeah, originality.ai. Follow us on socials. You can find me on both X and LinkedIn.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and just sharing your expertise as we do try to provide value in the marketing space and primarily to marketing agency owners so they can grow and scale their business. So, John, thanks again, man. Have a great weekend. Appreciate your time.
Likewise. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you for tuning in to another great episode of the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where we provide the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. To learn more, go to umbrellaus.com.